Shalom, shalom, mishpachah. Um, I want to just get right into it real quick. And thank you, needed that light. So just want to get into this real quick, talk about HOAs. Um, I was looking at a video and I was looking at some people who have experienced some nightmares dealing with HOA. And I pulled up an article a little bit to talk about some HOAs as well. And it's just weird. Look, we're all talking about coming out, talking about homesteading. So I'm gonna tell you right now, do not deal with don't deal with an HOA. Don't have anything to do if you wanna homestead. Don't have anything to do with an HOA. I'm sorry if you're part of HOA right now and you got to deal with it. I'm sorry, but that is not gonna be conducive to what we're trying to do. I was looking at this article a little bit, and it just has a little bit of information here. Say, what is an HOA neighborhood? You guys know the basics, right? So we're just going to go over the basics real quick. An HOA neighborhood is something like a community within a community. You live in a city or town, a municipality, but if you also live in an HOA neighborhood, you also live in another distinct legal entity. And just as the municipality has rules, so does the HOA. There are various types of HOA neighborhoods, and each vary in terms of the amenities they provide and their control over your status as a homeowner. They have control over your status as a homeowner. Okay, I hope you don't miss that. The first one is a voluntary HOA. These are something more like traditional neighborhood associations in that they're informal, have no legal standing, and are generally organized to deal with a specific issue confronting the neighborhood. That issue could be something like organizing to block certain outside developments or circumstances that are considered harmful to the neighborhood, or just to get some seasonal parties going. They typically have small dues, but you aren't required to pay them or even to join the HOA. That's a voluntary HOA, right? Now, mandatory HOAs. Mandatory HOAs. If you buy a house in a mandatory HOA neighborhood, you are required to join the HOA by virtue of the fact that you will be a homeowner in that neighborhood. There is no provision for you to opt out. Once you close on the sale, you're in. There are generally substantial neighborhood amenities, commonly a pool, tennis court, clubhouse, playgrounds, and a formal entryway into the neighborhood. You will be required to pay an HOA fee on an annual, semi-annual, quarterly, and monthly basis. There are covenants and restrictions that you will be required to sign at closing that will include bylaws that mostly tell you what you can't do with your property. Talk about that in just a second. And then they have a condominium, okay, one. Has, more substantial amenities and stuff like that, but I'm gonna skip that. It said, what makes a HOA neighborhood such a threat? Here's the thing. I'm convinced most people who buy into mandatory HOA neighborhoods have no idea what they're stepping into until they run afoul of the association board. Okay, you can see some videos online where people get into it, HOA, because there's a lot of overreach. You would feel like it's overreach, but if you signed up for it, then technically it's not overreach. But okay, if you don't already get in, the primary purpose of HOAs is to maintain and improve property values in the neighborhood. That's what it's supposed to be for. Before you go thinking that's a good thing, imagine that your house is controlled by a stockbroker whose only objective is to increase the value of your property. While that may be a good thing on the day you sell the house, how it plays out between now and then will be another matter entirely. The problem is that how we live our lives is usually not consistent with what is necessary to maintain and increase property values. In order to carry out the business of increasing property values, the HOA enacts and enforces a series of rules designed to ensure that neighborhood standards of conformity are met. You'll probably notice that HOA neighborhoods tend to have dozens or hundreds of substantially identical homes. This is by design. Conformity is easier to enforce in similar homes. Customization of any kind becomes easier to spot. The HOA will limit what color you can paint your house, how many people can live in it, how many and what type of vehicles you can park in the driveway, how often you need to paint the exterior, where you place your garbage dumpsters, and the condition of your landscaping. They can also prevent you from adding on to the house or maintaining outbuildings like tool sheds or a tree house for the kids. And that's just the general stuff. Once you've been prohibited from doing something with your property or made to do something you don't want to, you begin to get a clear picture of what's really going on. To add insult to injury, should you be found to be in violation, the HOA has a legal right to impose legally enforceable fines on you that are automatically attached to your property. Okay, so I want you guys to understand something. Like where I was, it was the homeowner, it had an HOA too, it was a part of a HOA. And there were some things, there were some certain restrictions and things, a couple things. One, what I wanted to do is I wanted to have a little garden in the backyard. I wanted to kind of get my growing skills going and stuff like that. Got to ask permission for that, and they said no. So I couldn't have a garden in the backyard, okay? And this is fenced off, the two side walls, two side fences or whatever or center blocks, so you can't really see over it. I mean, it's like over 6 feet tall, so if someone's looking in your backyard, they have to get on something to look over and see what you're doing. Now the very back fence was like wrought iron steel, so if you're standing at the very back of it, you can see into the backyard. But garden, no, can't have a garden. Up front,
they would come by.
they would come. They have people coming by. Thank you, sweet. They had people coming by, checking out, making sure you didn't put anything in the backyard that they don't approve of. Come by and check, and then you'll get a letter. The other thing, up front, I got a letter. It was weird. They said I didn't have enough shrubs in front. I had to have 2 shrubs over here, and then like a long bush here, and certain kind of trees. It was weird. I was like, what is this? Crazy. Okay, this is the kind of stuff that you have to stay away from. You gotta stay away from homeowners associations, especially if you're trying to be a set apart type of person and you want to grow what you need to grow. Okay, so when you are going out and you're looking for land, check the restrictions. Okay, make sure, have in mind what you want to do in your land. You check those restrictions and make sure it's not restricting anything that you want to do. Right. The no restrictions is the best, okay, or very little restrictions as possible. Like I had on the land that I'm selling, there's only one restriction on it, right? And that one restriction was you can't have pigs, right? I didn't care because I didn't want pigs, so that didn't bother me. So if it doesn't bother you, if it's a restriction that does not bother you, it's not that big a deal. I don't want pigs, I don't care. But that was the one restriction I asked. I said, well, what kind of restrictions do we have? Say, well, you can't farm pigs. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't want pigs. I have no use for that anyway, so I didn't care. But anyway, you want the least amount of restrictions as possible, okay? So if you're gonna homestead, check out what you can do. Can you do composting, okay? Or is that okay? Are you required to have running water or city water or anything? Are you required to have that, okay? That might get in your way because, hey, we're homesteading, we're trying to not get into a whole bunch of debt, so you have to make sure, hey, can I take my time getting water? That in a second. Let me see what you're saying, because it pops up on the screen and then it goes away real fast. So let me go to where I was, so I can look at what you're talking about in the comment. He said, shalom, my brother. This house of collect. Oh, okay. I need my glasses, bro. That's my brother David. He said, this is coming to land developments, even in remote so-called off-the-grid properties. Oh yeah, it's gonna try to come. Thank you, sweetie. She's helping me out. Thank you, brother. She's helping me out. My eyeballs. I couldn't see that. I don't know. I can see fine. It's just I can't read without my glasses. Anyway. Yeah, absolutely. It's coming to those places. So we really got to watch out for the restrictions. Really got to watch out how you dispose of your trash. Okay. Let's see what you got here. Mostly with buy here, pay here, or owner finance companies. Yeah, a lot of that happens. You got to look at what they call covenants. Check the covenants. Okay, so the county where you are, if you're outside the city limits, they may have no restrictions. They say, hey, you're outside of the city, no restrictions. But if you're buying it from a company, you want to make sure, you want to see if they have any covenants, okay, which are basically restrictions, and make sure those restrictions won't hinder you from doing what you want to do on the land. Okay, so we definitely gotta look into that. But that's all I wanted to drop in. I wanted to drop in and just make a comment of that because I was looking at the video, and I'm looking at these two people that are arguing, and the HOA, they just coming in there and just, I mean, you feel like you're not an owner. You feel like you have no restrictions. You know, the dude was like, hey, this is my home. I'm not bothering anybody. I'm just doing this. I'm doing that, blah, blah, blah. And they was just stone faced. Well, according to our policy and according to our bylaws and according to another, you really don't have any rights. So brothers out there, you know, hey, you look for some land, check those restrictions and those covenants and stay away from HOA because they have their own, it's legal. What they do is legal. They can levy fines against you if you don't, you gotta put your trash in a certain spot. You can't have, they control what type of pets you have. They control how many people live in your home. They can control all that stuff. And it can get even further than that, okay? Obviously, you know, noise level and all that stuff. So you got to watch for all that stuff, brothers and sisters. So that's all I had. I just want to jump in, let you guys know that is crazy. Try not to get roped in on these restrictions. You know, try not to get roped in, especially if you're trying to homestead and be set apart. You know, do what you got to do. But hey, guys, that's all I have for right now. This is IP, and I'm going to see you guys on the next one. Shalom.